What's up, baby? The untouchable
The
empire.
untouchable empire, baby.
How y'all we gonna do another review for you, brought to you by your brother, um, the one and only Ilkan Ali from the Untouchables. We're gonna have a live for you on Friday. I was thinking about doing a live today. I may still do a live today. I'm definitely gonna do this video addressing the Andrew Wilson and Coach Adams debate. Hopefully it's a good one. You know what I'm saying? But we're gonna get into the review. I appreciate it, man. When y'all see this live, that y'all like, you subscribe, and you hype the video if you can. There's a new feature. I don't know if a lot of people are talking about where you can hype the video. If you got the points, man, please hype the video. If you following us, if you appreciating us, if you valuing us, you are valuing the information and the content, please donate to the channel, man. It helps us to continue to work for y'all. It gives us the momentum to keep coming back here to provide you content. There's no way y'all expect Ali and Fatty and Untouchables to keep making content and we not being supported. And I'm not saying we're not being supported. We get a tremendous amount of support from the people. If you are just supporting with us, man, you rocking with the team and you appreciate the information, man, just donate as much as possible to the Untouchables. We're going to do the best we can to keep up the momentum, and the fact that y'all supporting us is why we're doing more and more and more content. We're going to keep giving to y'all. All right. So we're going to start with this debate. I got my perspectives and I try to be honest as possible and try to provide information from the best position that I can without throwing no ad hominems. I'm actually going at the people as well too. I may call out some things that I don't like about individuals at certain times or certain points, but I'd rather focus on the information than get into that mudslinging, man. I don't really like doing that too much, contrary to popular opinion. Or maybe people see that I'm not truly trying to fight. And if we end up fighting, it's because somebody threw the first blow or the first rock or did the first kick. You know what I'm saying? They was shooting at your boy. You know what I'm saying? He was out here ducking, So we gonna get it going, man. Let's get this going. Let's get the show going, man. Let's get the people what they came for, All right, hope y'all ready, man. Let me get this on the right side. Let me do this the right way. Let's see what they talking about.
Talk about today, is marriage worth it for men in the West? So let's get into some opening statements. Who wants to start off?
Yeah, man, marriage is a great institution. It was an institution that built the community of America. Most of the better communities that have safety, good children, good schools are typically centered around marriage. However, marriage has not progressed to the point where men could be safe legally, and a lot of men have experienced tremendous damage, collateral damage as a result, and it has led to broken families, a lot of broken hearts, simply because the laws are not positioned to benefit both people in a divorce. Therefore, you have no-fault divorce. You have opportunities for women to use the courts against men. And as a result, men have seen 1, 2, and 3 generations of men getting harmed, their grandfathers, their fathers, their uncles, their brothers getting harmed by this. So Generation Z men are not positioning themselves for a positive marriage. So at this particular point, if someone asked me, would I recommend marriage for them, and they were in a certain position in life, they weren't established, I would say no.
So before Andrew speaks, then it's a contradiction from the beginning, my brother Adams. And I know your intent is to say that marriage is a good thing, which I think you probably profess that the actual commitment of 2 individuals is a good thing. But if you're already changing the answer from saying that marriage is a good institution to say it's not actually benefiting men at this point, then marriage in itself is not a good thing, especially when we see how these marriages are affecting men in general and affecting women in general as well too. We know that the states are issuing these license and getting people to get married so that the lawyers and the system can profit from it. It's not as if we're going to benefit from it, because people are typically leaving now. 50% of people who get married are divorcing now currently. And then the second marriages, it goes up to 60% of divorce, and the third marriages go to 70% of divorce. And then when you look at the pros and cons versus what happens to men and women, men often have to pay the alimony, men often have to pay child support, men often lose custody of the kids, men often lose 10 to 20% of their income. Men often lose the house if the woman has the kids and she's typically given primary custody of the kids. Your retirement security is affected with the 401k, and you have to share with the women as well too. And she may get a lower lifetime earnings, but at least she gets a portion of the brother's 401k. It hits men drastically emotionally, where it's very difficult for them to get over the divorce, over losing that woman, over losing their children, where the woman can typically get over emotionally losing the man and losing the kids. And y'all can see throughout your lifetimes where women can quickly get over men and have way more relationships than men typically do. Amount of relationships that men have are typically very seldom to none because they take relationships extremely serious. But you can't say that when the debate is starting, is marriage worth it, and then say marriage is a great institution, when in reality, two people committing to each other, whether there's a license or agreement involved that has to do with the state, keeps two people together. It's the primary commitment is associated about two adults who want to stay committed to each other, regardless of what happens between them. So whether they're in a relationship or whether they're in a marriage is irrelevant if they can't stay together. And the marriage is starting to be incentivized for the state to make money, and we perpetuate the romantic aspect of marriages. We put the icing on the cake and we sugarcoat marriage to make people get married, to where a lot of people still end up divorcing. So if the number one reason for divorce is marriage, then it's not benefiting the man, nor is it benefiting the woman in the long run, if we want to be honest. But it impacts the men more negatively than it does the woman when we break down what happens after the divorce. So we have to stand on that first idea of saying that marriage isn't worth it. So I believe Coach Adams, probably that was his intent. But when he started off right away with saying that marriage is a great institution, I think I can see why people are saying he may already lost the debate, because he started off by saying marriage is a great institution, but then turns back around and say that marriage isn't worth it. So I want to see what my brother Andrew says. But again, when you bring in the pros and cons of the marriage, when you bring in the pros and cons of what happens in actual commitments and relationship with people, there's less liability when people just break up in relationships versus when they have to divorce. When it comes to the finances, when it comes to financial benefits, when it comes to the risk of what happens when you get divorced as well too, and the flexibility people have when they're in relationships. You don't have to worry about losing everything when you're in a relationship, and both of you walk away with what you came in a relationship with. Versus typically, men are typically the higher earners. They're going to end up losing, and the women may end up losing too, because they're working less a lot of the times now to take care of more of the children, which is understandable. But it can't be a pity party, because a lot of women are deciding to be in marriages and are deciding to be wives and are deciding to be mothers. We can't keep blaming men for how it affects women when men are already being the primary breadwinners to take care of the family. It's got to be a trade-off. If women are wanting to go to work and the men work, then it should be 50-50. Both of us leave it where we came in if we divorce, and nobody should be worrying about each other's assets. If we stay together and we worry about the legal protection because we're married, or we can do documents that are outside the marriage to keep our assets together, or for me to give my assets to my lady or her to me, if we end up if something ends up happening to us, if we have a long-term relationship, that's understandable. But the fact that when people divorce, that both of their assets or property or inheritance is split is very problematic, especially when okay, I think we good. But let's see what my brother Andrew says.
There's no benefit for the person to get married today.
Got it. Your response, Andrew?
Yeah, I didn't hear any anti-marriage arguments. I heard anti-divorce arguments. So I'm with you on divorce, 100%.
Stream over.
And
I agree.
But it's a good thing that the topic.
But Ali's point is, if you never get married, you ain't got to worry about a divorce. And if people are getting married and divorcing, what is the benefit of getting married if people are divorcing? If people aren't staying together, then the marriage has become obsolete. That's the main point. If people are staying with each other less, having less relationships, having less families, having less babies, and they're not sticking together, especially if somebody continues to change their mind, then it's not a benefit and it becomes obsolete. The commitment from a man to woman is what the most important thing is, and what the most valuable thing is two people finding every reason to stay together. And you don't need a marriage to do that.
Isn't on divorce, it's on marriage. And it seems like you agree with my proposition then. And the proposition is that marriage, quote, is a great institution.
Yep.
And that right now your concern is that men can't be safe in marriage, but that's not actually what you're saying. You're not saying men can't be safe in marriage. They can. You're saying that they may not be safe in divorce. So I have a counter proposition for you. My counter proposition is,
and that's false. If marriage is dangerous, if you're not safe, you can be. That's the argument. If we're having a debate, if Andrew's debating them, you can be. There's a possibility you can be safe in a marriage, but the very fact that you can divorce and have to split assets, lose whatever you lose your property, inheritance, whatever you came into the marriage because of divorce, it's not safe. It can be. You're absolutely right, but it's not safe.
what if it's the case that you can use religious marriage institutions without the state? And then we add the ecclesiastical structure of the marriage. That's what always kept them together anyway, before the state was ever involved. So what if instead we use the ecclesiastical church, the structure of the old churches? That would be Catholicism and Orthodoxy, where you see the lowest divorce rates, because the community puts pressure on the women to act right. That's what they do. Right now, the state applies no pressure on women to act right, right? You can just go and file whatever.
And Ali got to step in because y'all, it got to be talked about. That's absolute. If I have to get pressure from the society, if I have to get pressure from other people for my woman to stay married with me, it doesn't benefit me at all. The problem with religious marriage is that without the state registration, the marriage has no legal standing. It's not binding. You don't have no inheritance rights. You don't have the property protections. You don't have the insurance benefits. You don't have the a legal divorce process. You are married under religion, but you're not married under the state. So it's irrelevant. It's a moot point. Just because people are getting religious marriages doesn't mean that they're actually married under the eyes of the state. It's only legal binding if you're registered under the state, and the courts treat it that way. But as long as you're just married religiously, it means absolutely nothing. And let's see what else Andrew goes to, because even when he starts getting into the religion and how it possibly can benefit you, it's not the fact that it can benefit you that he needs to focus on. Is how it doesn't benefit you and what the disadvantage of marrying does to people and to individuals. Respectfully, my brother Andrew.
You want, get a divorce and go be banging the neighbor by the next night. We totally agree on that. But to say that we should abandon marriage is silly. It seems like you're completely pro-marriage. You're just anti-divorce. So why wouldn't you just throw your weight behind institutions where the divorce rate is the least, and you have an ecclesiastical structure which can be appealed to assist with that? That's what makes no sense to me.
My response to that is, if we're fifths, we beat all drunk. All right. So that's a scenario that just isn't present.
Can you explain the analogy for me?
Well, if we use if, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. If we say if we have a situation where this is present, then this would work. Well, that makes sense. If we had that,
we do have it right now.
Well, it doesn't necessarily work because, and I'm going to tell you why, because a woman can go to a divorce attorney and they can simply just say, hey, listen, it was a off the cuff, off the state divorce, but you got married within a certain state, or she filed in a certain state, so therefore the divorce goes on.
No,
absolutely,
okay.
yes. Listen, I've been with the divorce attorneys, and what they'll tell you is, hey, listen, you can get married in a ritual, you can get married in the orthodoxy, you can get married off record, but if she files and that woman is hell bent on saying, we got married, I don't care if it was a ceremony where we walked on coals with our feet bare, that's considered a marriage. You also have common law. You have a lot of other ways for that woman to establish marriage.
How does your way eliminate common law?
I don't have any way to eliminate common law. So what I have is a way for men to avoid.
Well, then the
being
argument's
used
silly.
No, the argument's not silly. So here's what you have. You have a if.
No, Andrew's argument is silly because most states don't honor common law marriage. They're not going to enforce common law marriage. And I believe it's, let me see, I think it's a couple of states. I'm trying to think which states actually allow common law marriage. I can't remember right now, but majority of the states do not allow common law marriage. I think it's Colorado who still recognizes it, Iowa, Montana, Texas, I think Kansas, but I know it's like 8 or 9 states that allows or recognizes common law marriage. So it's still a moot point if we're going to be honest. I wish they can. I think the moderator, if he does a better job, what I'll do while they talking, man, I'll be typing up everything and asking and chat GPT and Googling and seeing what's going on so I can hold people accountable. I think it'd be amazing, like when they do sometimes in presidential debates where the moderator holds everybody accountable. And I'll point out, hey, that's not true. That's not true. He was right there. Oh, yep, I agree with that. So that people have to hold themselves accountable when sharing information, and you'll hold them to task and then make them correct themselves, or they show that they deliberately will lie to be right. And then we'll have a bigger problem and see how people choose to debate or have conversations. But again, most states do not honor common law marriage. So again, the woman will still beat that. The woman will still beat marriage, or a man, if we're going to use it, but minority of men are leaving marriages, which we already conceded to the fact that for years now, 70 to 80% of marriages or divorces are initiated by women, and 90% if they're educated. So that's a moot point when we even talking about that, because majority of the time it's the women that's leaving. So marriage isn't going to save you from women leaving, and common law isn't going to save you from women leaving or even establishing a marriage. And we'll get to the religious aspect of it as well too.
Proposition, which doesn't exist for most men. Most men aren't religious. Most men aren't looking to be under a religious orthodoxy. So it doesn't apply. So you're taking a moral standard or a religious standard to apply to people who aren't under that veil.
So let's start with a couple of things you said which are fundamentally untrue. Most men are religious, in fact, including in this country. Most of them, not some of them.
But they're not religious.
Hang on. I didn't interrupt.
I understand, but maybe just take that point. Most aren't under your religion.
Okay.
We can agree with that.
So here's the thing, though. But Catholicism and Orthodoxy is growing rapidly. And if it's the case that the ecclesiastical structure is already there, which it is, right? If you're going to cohabitate with a woman, the thing that you're offering right now is common law marriage anyway, if there's cohabitation at all. You're not protecting anybody from that. At least under my model, it gives an ecclesiastical structure that's designed to prevent divorce by applying community pressure. That was the way it was always done. Apply the application of community pressure within the confines of the woman's social circle. Right now, do you agree with me, for instance, that many divorces happen because women like to yap? So you get a freshly divorced woman, and she's free. You go, girl. Girl power. And she starts talking to her little friends, and she starts telling them how liberating it is and how great it is, and this and that. And this is why when women have divorced friends, their likelihood of divorce actually rapidly increases. It's for this reason.
Divorce is contagious.
So if it's the case that this social contagion is eliminated because now we have an ecclesiastical structure, an ecclesiastical authority, which won't grant it because you get ostracized from that social group through excommunication, for instance, or not being able to participate anymore with that community, that's an application of a serious and significant social pressure, which can do the very thing you want. Bring back that great institution, absent the state, and it avoids this whole problem of common law marriage. Because if it's the case that you can be common law married anyway inside of a state, and they can get grounds for divorce on that anyway, then we actually need to have some social pressures to prevent them from doing that. So it sounds like we agree marriage is awesome for men. Divorce is terrible for them. So it seems like we should be attacking the divorce structure here, and it doesn't seem like you actually have anything to do that other than just avoid the thing that's great for you.
No, that's not what he's saying. And that's what I'm saying when you have an intentional conversation. He's saying the institution of marriage leads to divorce. That's what he's saying, Andrew. And that it compromises men. The divorce is the result of a bad marriage, which means marriage doesn't result in a good marriage, love, or forever, or a happy life permanently with women. That's all he's saying. Divorce would mean someone would have to go back to being single, and that is the word used for the end of a marriage. But the point is to address that if men are getting married, it leads them to being single anyway. There's no reason to engage in marriage even coming to a place with relationships because of the transformation of what marriage is happening, is what's happening to marriage as well too. This is why a lot of us are engaging in so-called promiscuity and casual sex, because women push for that. They push for feminism. They push to do whatever they want to and to have autonomy over their body, while they push to also be able to control men when they feel convenient. They want men to still be righteous and still chase after the marriage concept, chase after relationships, chase after paying their bills. But they still want to be able to entertain other men, get attention, sell their bodies, get resources for that as well too. But when they feel it convenient to be married, they want to tell men what to do, and then they need to still do the right thing. Even if they chose not to do the right thing for all these years, they still deserve a husband. But a good man doesn't deserve a good woman. So that's what he's saying. Religious marriage institutions, even marriages under the religious institutions, without the state, you still can't control the woman wanting to leave a marriage or the man. So it's a moot point, Andrew, if marriage doesn't constitute to a permanent commitment, my brother.
Because this other bad side effect could happen.
Sure, that's
so
like
why don't
smoking cigarettes.
So why don't we attack the bad side effect when we have the mechanism to do it? It's not if, we can do it now.
Okay, so like smoking cigarettes is the same.
The bad side effect is the woman, or the way she's being conditioned. So either she's always been this way and men controlling her got women to do the right thing, or the way society has conditioned her or programmed her is to devalue men while valuing everything else the man can provide, except for the relationship, the actual emotional commitment, and the love and being passionate about your man and your family. Women are picking themselves. Women are choosing to be single mothers. Women are choosing to invest in themselves. They're choosing to be liberated. They're choosing to have autonomy over their body. They're choosing to be a free spirit. They're choosing self-love. They're choosing happiness. We can have a long list of what they're choosing that has nothing to do with their children and has nothing to do with their men. So until the women are reprogrammed and changed, or their actual innate nature is brought out of them, and we invest in that and teach them to want to be wives and mothers, or at least rightful women who are committed to relationships without even having endorsed marriages, until we teach them to have lifelong commitments again and to be women who have relationships with men, all these points are irrelevant. Marriage is irrelevant. Relationships are irrelevant. Love is irrelevant. Having a commitment is irrelevant. Honoring anyone is irrelevant. That's the point of these conversations.
Analogy, you're saying, okay, here, cigarettes in this situation, we obviously know it has negative side effects, so you would avoid it. Now, here's the issue that I have with it. It sounds great on paper, but we can't travel to the land of make-believe. It sounds great. The majority of people probably wouldn't do it. And if you ask a guy, which this is an important part, they're not even prepared to even talk about that. They don't even know what divorce laws are. So you're asking them to travel to the land of make-believe under a marriage system that small percentage of people use. No one uses it today. You might have said they used it to the past. Today, that doesn't exist. So we can't travel to the land of make-believe to make marriage work for you. It might work in your marriage, but it doesn't work for the greater structure.
Your argument here contradicts itself, because on the one hand, you say men don't know enough about marriage, but my assumption is that your mission is to let men know about marriage.
Absolutely.
Okay, well then I don't understand how it's the land of make-believe if you can let them know about this, but I can't.
Sure.
Right. So
you can offer that.
So if I am, it sounds like I'm offering a real alternative to what you're offering. And here's what you're offering. Men, marriage is great. It's a great institution. It's the best for children. These are your words. In marriage, right, men seem to thrive. Their health seems to thrive. Everything seems to thrive. You're saying, well, the problem is that divorce rates are high, and they are. However, there's a few things there that you haven't covered. One, it depends on demographic, too. For instance, if you're black, it's going to be way worse than if you're white.
Correct.
Okay? Way worse. And also socioeconomics matters, right? Demographics in general matter. So you can do a lot, actually, including prenuptial agreements. You can have a prenuptial agreement with the ecclesiastical authority without the state even involved. And it seems like that would mitigate your risk to damn near nothing.
You said if about 50 times
So did
today.
you.
Now, here's what I'm telling you. I'm telling you when, all right, we're already in this system. You're going outside of the system to create a scenario for me to argue
What
against.
system are you going outside of?
We're talking about marriage is typically done with the state. Almost everyone does it this way.
Typically,
so now
it's
you're
not-
hold on
it's
for a
not
second.
must.
Hold on for a second. You've
Typically
moved the
doesn't mean
goalposts.
anything.
You've moved the goalposts to a scenario of if. And you're arguing from the if. No, hold on for a second. You're arguing from the if perspective.
It is perspective.
No, listen.
It is.
Give me a chance to listen.
All right,
give me a chance.
Go ahead.
You're arguing from a very small percentage point. Now you're saying demographics, and we can talk about that, but you're still trying to get me to argue in your cloud of if. That's the land of make believe. Most people, by far, are married to the state. Not only that, your land of make believe still exists. The prenup with the Ecclesiastics, you can write whatever you want in that prenup. It only matters in the divorce. That's the reality. So I'm still dealing in reality. You're in the clouds. Hold on for a second. You're in the clouds. So let's take the demographics.
Okay.
In your scenario, it sounds like, which would be fair, your primary concern is with white people.
No, it's with
Hold on for a second. You said with black people, the demographics, the chance is higher.
Yeah.
So have you discovered the Ecclesiastics approach to black people married within this?
Yes.
However, their demographics, economics, which all do affect marriage, has nothing to do in the land of the clouds or the make-believe with Ecclesiastics. It's all going to boil down to in the law. And
So I still don't agree with that if, Fatty, because in order to enact what they enacted as well too, to make women act the way they're acting, I'm sure men came together and said, hey man, if we can give these women incentives not to stay with their men, if we give these women the ability to work, if we give these women the option to work, to be a wife, but we never have to demand that they actually pick a permanent responsibility. If we give women all this power, we can use them against men to control how men can navigate in this world and to destroy families, to destroy relationships, and to destroy the fabrics of families so that people are always fighting each other and they can never point at the people at the top who are actually dismantling them and taking their money and taking the land from up under them. So I believe if it's important when it comes to enacting an action. Now, if you are an actual fantasy world where you still saying that if we get people married, if we get people to commit, if we get people to get in these relationships without no actual resolutions, like Andrew is doing, saying if you bring God into it, if you get people married, if God is involved with them, that's when it becomes a fantasy world and there's no solutions. There's no solution in place, and there's no action that he is that he's worked on or put together to say that he would implement to get people to put an actual action in place to make people stay together. So I get that part. So if people are weaponizing the if and being in fantasy world, worth implementing the if to enact a solution and saying, if we put this in place, this what will happen. But admit that we're still in this fantasy world and admit that this current process of marriage and relationships isn't working for anybody. The state isn't working for anybody. Marriage isn't working for anybody. God isn't working for anybody. The women aren't working for anybody. Then we're making an actual point, and you're coming to a logical conclusion when you say that. So I don't believe in the if statement the way right now Andrew is weaponized. Excuse me, Andrew. Coach Adams is weaponizing it against Andrew. If he's saying, if Andrew is actually trying to say if these things are done, but if he's addressing his fantasy, then I do agree with Coach Greg Adams.
And there's no church reverend that's going to go into your household to make sure there's social pressure on your wife. Do you know any?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you know any that can cover all marriages? That answer is no.
Yes. By the way, when you keep,
are we in reality here?
I'm trying.
We in the clouds. I mean, we're
and that's what I mean. Andrew is in the clouds. Because when we do discuss, whether you discuss in the Catholic Church, whether you discuss in the Orthodox, whether you ecclesiastics, it don't matter if the priest does it. It doesn't matter if the pastor does it. It doesn't matter who's doing it. If they marry people religiously, they still have to register under the government, and they have to still register with the state, or it's not considered a legal one. And another part where Coach Adams got him as well too is the fact that if these people, majority of people are not practicing the religion, even if they say they are religious. So if you look at the people who are practicing it, I can go with Andrew saying that the divorce rates can be from 20 to 30%. But if they're not practicing it, it goes up higher to 40 and 50% when people aren't practicing their religion, and they end up being just like the average citizen or average person who ends up getting married, which is about the 50% divorce rate when people get married. So the non-believers will go to 40 to 50%, just like the average citizen.
We're not arguing anything legitimate. This is in the land of make believe.
Well, when I'm allowed to
Okay, give me a second. Let me finish this point.
Go ahead.
you're imagining, your imagination is great. John Lennon would be great. You know, you would be proud of you at this particular point.
But I'm imagining all the people.
You're imagining all the people under a situation and a structure that you brought in here. All right. But the state highly governs this, and the state highly governs divorce. I'm dealing in a reality situation where I'm trying to counsel men to give information to. The best thing you've told me is that you're willing to give men the option to do this. Are they willing to all do this option? The answer is probably not, just like they're not willing to do what I'm telling them to do. However, we're both attempting, which is a good thing. It's noble.
And remember, while we on here, make sure y'all Googling, make sure y'all go do y'all chat GPTing. All right. The first marriage is a 45% divorce rates. The second is 60%, the third is 70%. And if you're talking about the Catholic, Orthodox, and ecclesiastic, if they're not practicing, it's the 40-50% range for all three of them. So just look, I think Catholic is 35 to 40. It goes up. So it's still at the 40. If we're doing 40 to 50, and it says even in Catholic, it's 35 to 40, and then that number 40 is up there. And then you're looking at the ecclesiastic, it's up to 40-50%. Majority of people who are practicing are divorcing, just like the majority of people of the citizens in the United States. Most people are first marriages are 40 to 45%. So it's a minority of people that are actually practicing. But even if they practice it the way they're practicing it, it's because those people are using whatever concept, whether there's marriage, whether it's relationships, whether it's their own fundamental beliefs, and the way they use their reasoning, the way they use their mind, the way they use their intention and purpose is to stay together. Those people are choosing to stay together. It has nothing to do with the outside influence making them stay committed. Does the outside influence impact them? Of course. Do their personal experiences impact them? Of course. Do the way some people can motivate them? Of course. But they're taking the actual action to stay together, which is bigger than all of them.
However, your situation rarely exists. Can we talk about the reality of what exists?
Sure.
Absolutely. So let's take your moral religious crusade out of it and talk about the reality.
Yeah, let's
Are
not.
you willing to do that?
Yeah, well, here's the thing.
See, you're not willing to do that
Well,
because it's all based on your reality.
Guess what? It's a debate, and I will argue my points from my view.
Now, remember this. I remember the first time I watched this, I felt like Coach Greg Adams wasn't answering questions, but Andrew isn't answering the question. He's going to debate it from his perspective. So they're both choosing that go back and forth at times. They picking and choosing when they want to answer the actual question, and then they're picking and choosing when they're making it personal and deciding whether they want to ask the question or not. And I hate that from men and women when they say, I'm going to answer the question the way I want to answer the question, which means you're deflecting or deviating whether they got you or because you don't know the information, so you sway away from it so you don't have to speak on the information. So it's usually because somebody got you. And a lot of times people may sway away from it because they're not informed, but you're picking and choosing how you want to answer instead of answering the question.
I see fit. It's not for you to
But
govern.
what I'm not going to do is expect to be arguing from the land of make-believe.
Yeah.
Remember, it's not his job to govern. And I know later on he's gonna go. Coach Greg Adams is gonna tell him, you can't make me answer the question. So this is becoming personal. This is becoming emotional, and they're choosing not to intentionally debate at this current moment, and they get in their feelings. But most respect to both of them. I still respect both of them and value the information they bring into these spaces. But this is what they're choosing to do right now, respectfully. They can't deny it if we're using our logic, our reasoning, and our observation.
But it's
okay. All right. So
okay,
anybody
my
have
turn? My turn.
Anybody
Relax.
have the anybody have the sound effect for the television show where the train comes through, Mr. Rogers?
Let me know
because I want to be on Earth.
Yeah. Let me know.
All right.
Let's let Andrew respond.
Yeah. So the thing is it's funny that you bring up "Imagine All the People" of John Lennon, which is an anti-religious song, and hilariously enough, was designed to assist with female empowerment. Isn't that hilarious? But the thing here is you keep on saying that what I'm offering is make-believe, but it's not. It's been governing the Orthodox and Catholic Church for 2,000 years, including in this country. Now, here, let me give you an example, for instance, the Amish, right? Do you know what the divorce rate is among them? It's almost non-existent, yet they're still governed by the same laws of the land that you're speaking to. So sounds like if I give a counter, if I say, look, I can give you a way, a methodology, in which you can utilize the religious ecclesiastical institution, which has existed for 2,000 years and has right now the lowest divorce rates, right this second as we speak, not in make-believe land, not hundreds of years in the future, right this second, as opposed to the system you have of common law divorce, which is sky high and you can't do anything about it. That's what is true. So pointing out what is true is right now you can have a prenup. That is true. What is true is prenups are usually held up in court. That is true. What is true is that you can have a marriage outside of a state because it's a religious institution.
So this is where this becomes a moot point again, to where he's using church to say people can stay committed to each other, but then he won't use church or religion or Christianity to talk about the genocide and the wars and the way Christianity was used to control and conquer people. So you have to speak on the Inquisition, you have to speak on the Crusades, you have to speak on European colonizations of Africa and Asian countries, you have to speak on the witch hunts, you have to speak on the transatlantic slave trade and actual racism that was implemented on people. You have to speak about the genocide on indigenous people as well too, natives, Africans, and different people that Christianity was used to enact genocides and war and the conquering of people. You can't just say Christianity was used for this great, beautiful, holy matrimony thing, and then you can't be honest about what else Christianity was being used for as well too. But at the end of the day, when you bring into the table what actually creates these bonds, what actually creates these relationships, what actually creates humanity, what actually makes people take action to do good to people or bad to people, destroy or commit chaos, it's the human being, the way the human being is being raised, the way the human being is being treated, the way the human being is being conditioned and raised and programmed. What is his culture? What is his nationality? What is his background? What is his race? What is his religion? Is moot. It's irrelevant. Are we raising people to be good people, loving people, respectful people that invest in humanity, regardless of all those things? Or are we using those things to weaponize it against people, and we use it in our benefit, which a lot of people do? Because I meet good Christians, I meet bad Christians, I meet good Muslims, I meet bad Muslims, I meet good Jews, I meet bad Jews, I meet good types of people, Asians, Arabs, Hispanics, all over the world. It's the human being that matters the most, and how we invest in human beings to do good, and how he invests in them himself or herself to be a good person or a destructive person. And the history of why people are doing it very important as well too. So don't use Christianity to say it does a good thing without addressing how Christianity can do a bad thing as well too. And that same practice of marriage could be is the same thing that's creating people, that's causing people to divorce as well too. It was created for people to divorce. It was created so people could, it was a financial incentive for the state to make money from it, because they knew people would break up. They knew people would divorce. And religion was used to convince people that your way was the right way by saying a God told you that, a higher being told you that, a creator told you that. Because if you use information on itself, then you'd have to provide with trial and error. You'd have to provide by observation. You have to provide using scientific methods. You have to provide and prove information to conclude to a fact. It couldn't be just a belief. Lie is in belief. It had to be actual knowledge. No is in knowledge.
Anyway, you never have to have a license with the state. It's never been necessary. And if you do, the only way that can be done is if it's sacramental. And if it's sacramental, it's governed now by the church. That's going to be the community the women are a part of. And so the thing is like, that sounds like a real viable solution. What's yours? More fucking degeneracy? Go out and play the field, hump a lot of chicks? How's that going to help anybody do anything? That's been the progressive mantra for 100 years. Isn't it wonderful? Your turn.
All right, we're returning back to Earth. Now, first things first, when it comes to this, back in reality, there's no God in marriage. So Mr. Sky Daddy, God, religion, that's all great, but there's no God in marriage. At this particular point, when you go through a marriage, if one person decides to not obey the Holy Bible or whatever you're thumping, you have no basis to keep that marriage together. If she decides to leave the church and decides not to listen or excommunicate herself, she's now under the state.
Agree.
Now, when you're getting divorced, which I'm assuming you've been divorced,
Well, I mean, that's a hell of an assumption to make.
Have you been divorced?
Well, I mean,
have you been married?
Can you tell me, if you can tell me how that has any merit?
Give me
to
a
the
second,
debate?
because if you've been through one, you would know that there's no God in the divorce court, in the
I
family
see.
court. There's no God in there. No one asked you.
There is the state in there.
There is the state. So that's what we're arguing for.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
when you get married. So you're telling me if, and I'm telling you, well, this is what's going to happen. Even if you took Sky Daddy into court with you, they would say you prayed to the judge.
How-
The judge is the authority in the court. So the God argument is a nice, interesting argument. And I probably am not going to stay on the conversation very long, because that's your God. That's your Sky Daddy. That's your religion. I have a different religion. So who
What does that
gives you
do with
the
anything?
listen? Who gives you the authority to change the understanding, the conversation to your religion? That's your religion.
I'm not changing the conversation.
Okay,
anything.
so it only
We're
works
talking
if
about,
it only works if you believe in your Sky Daddy. That's the only way it works, and that's the only way you're going to advise
well,
men.
we're talking about mitigating risk.
No. We're talking about, can men get into a marriage today only under your Sky Daddy? That's what we're assuming.
Okay.
Now, can they do it otherwise?
Yeah, you can have secular marriage.
Okay, go ahead and explain.
Okay, yeah,
Make it work.
I just did.
Make it work.
The argument that you have is that marriage is great. It's a great institution.
We already covered this.
Well, what made it great?
We already covered
What
this.
made it great?
Can we go into why it would make it work for your secular?
Y-
That's the question
yeah,
I ask you.
but-
You're asking me questions back. Go ahead and
Yeah,
go ahead and
okay.
answer the
So-
question.
So, if you're talking about secular marriage, there's never been any point to it.
I'm sorry.
There's never been any point to secular marriage ever.
So he's wrong again. And this is how the intelligence of Andrew Wilson and the wittiness of Andrew Wilson he uses against him and weaponizes against himself as well too. So when you go back to even hunter-gatherer societies like Tanzania, like people were already bonding together and creating relationships without the priest or a church, without having to be committed. I believe Fatty puts an emphasis on how people are in China, where they had families as well too, that was centered around family legacy and the inheritance, and it was the social construct of that time, but it was still formed by human beings. You had ancient recent Rome, way before Christianity, where people had contracts with religion, and it was validated by having a family, and they used witnesses at that time as well too, without priests. You know, the Roman law viewed marriage as civil status. It wasn't about religious sacrament like Andrew Wilson is talking about. You had Australian nations who had marriages without religion. Native Americans, the Iroquois, the Navajo. You had different tribes who had lifelong relationships without having to have religion. And there was a possibility that these people could divorce or separate as well too, but these people stayed together. So religion, Jesus, God, Allah, Hinduism, all these different type of religions still didn't have to happen without people having to be in relationships, because the people in our relationships came way before religion did. If we're being honest, religion can enhance it. Religion can put an emphasis on it by using something outside of yourself, but people were having relationships, people were having commitments, people were having long-term statuses in their unions together way before religion. We got to be really honest about that. And when you look at the divorce rates, they're still similar. The marriage divorce rates may be 10% lower, maybe 15% lower, but they're still getting divorced, just like secular people or atheists are getting divorced as well too. So you can make the point that maybe their divorce rates are better, but people, whether they're secular, whether they're non-religious, whether they're atheists, whatever they are, or religious as well too, people are still getting divorced. And the main core fabric of it is two people wanting to remain together. Not one person wanted to do it, another person that doesn't want to do it. Not two people coming together just for the hell of it. Not two people just coming there without no commitment. Not two people that came together and the relationship was already over, but they still attempted to. It's two people deciding to stay together and having an actual commitment that defines these relationships, these marriages, and these families.
Never. What would ever be the point of secular marriage? It's always been a religious institution.
No.
That's what made it great.
That's not true.
Now, when you say it's a great institution, what made it great for secularists, other than the fact that Sky Daddy and God had all these enforcement arms, and those things had to be enforced socially? Like, for instance, men weren't allowed to run away. And women, right, they had to show cause for these divorces. And they had to be good causes. They had to show it for things like infidelity, right? It was all biblically governed. It was all lawfully governed by this sky daddy guy you like so little. But that's what made the institution great in the first place. And what you're talking about here, you're making a point that divorce is bad. And yet, I agree, divorce is bad. So what we're really talking about is how do we mitigate the risk for divorce? And we have two different methods here.
Well, the conversation is marriage good for men. That's the conversation.
But it is. We already said it's good for men. That's not even in dispute.
And now, how do we make it better since they're avoiding it? Since men or women are avoiding it.
It sounds like the thing that you think makes it bad is divorce, not marriage.
Correct.
Then we need to mitigate divorce.
We're 15 minutes in, and we are in the land of reality. You finally called up. Can you tell me how we can get to the secular marriage? I mean, I've given you a chance. So you're dragging your feet.
So again, secular, there's never been any point to secular marriage ever.
Now listen.
And Andrew keeps doing that. But again, all those nations, all those people that I spoke to you about prior to having religion, those people were demanded to stay together because of economic and social reasons. It was necessary at that time as well, too, especially when I was telling you about the hunter-gatherer societies. Way before the tribal societies as well too, but and Roman and Greek societies, these people, because of social standing, were shamed if they separated. They were forced to be in together as well too, like way before religion. So I don't know whether he's misinformed or he's purposely doing it because Andrew Wilson's a very knowledgeable person, or it's because he has a bias towards religion that he's doing that as well too. But it's not right. It's not correct. There's one thing about trying to be right. Our brother John Henry keeps speaking about. There's one thing trying to be correct. It's another thing trying to be right. And a lot of people keep trying to be right instead of trying to be correct. People were staying committed to each other. People were being shamed to stay together. People were staying together for social status, for economic status, for survival, way before religion. And it was necessary because of the nature of people as well, too. It was more important to stay together where you have more options to separate today.
Marriage is for child creation. It would be great for child community and all of these things. And now listen, by the time the religious aspects got into marriage, they were chopping people's heads off and burning Bibles. So listen, I know we want to take it back to the past and act like the past was better, but there's always a negative part of the past. If you go back and
and he's right about that too. But I'm going to do this. I'll probably do a 2-3 part for these because this is, I think this one's going to end up being 50 minutes. But again, the problematic part about this is people keep trying to speak for God and what God wants for them. People will tell you that God brought them into a holy matrimony, and then people will tell you that God told them to separate. People keep speaking on what God is telling them to do, but people use God in so many different ways. You know, how you talking for God?
But let me tell you about God, though. The fuck out of here. Is he beyond our understanding? Or do you know every fucking thing? Because you got niggas out here that's going to actually tell you what God is thinking. And what God will do and what God won't do. Who the fuck is you, nigga?
No, it's like this.
God told me to take. God ain't tell you a bitch ass thing because he got my number directly, hoe ass nigga.
And then we all know
a hoe's final form is a religious woman.
That's not true. Hey, wait a minute.
So I'm going to do a part 2, family. Just remember all these people that are using God to do all these things they want to do, whether, again, it's to weaponize God against you or whether it's to do right by you using God. And people are taking turns. People are doing it at their own discretion on how they'll treat you based on what God told them to do Monday and what God told them to do Friday. And then we're blatantly using God's name in vain, and we're using it in such the right way, such the wrong way. Whether you believe God exists or doesn't exist, God is not telling everybody the same thing, and there's a problem with that. You know, if God can be used to make us go against each other, and God can be used to make us come together, who's actually speaking? Is it God telling us that, or is it man telling us that? So I'm going to see y'all on the next one. Just remember, Friday we doing red pill is dead. But is it?
You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
And y'all, and make sure y'all go like, make sure y'all go subscribe, make sure y'all hype this video up, man. Get us to the next level, man. Make sure y'all come with us, all right? We'll see y'all on the next one, man. Appreciate y'all.